just to disappoint you all, I would not be talking about sex and love this time. I will be talking about data, which to me is almost as sexy as sex itself. And the reason why I'm super stoked to be talking right after Tristan is that hopefully after hearing his talk, you are now convinced that research into our minds, typically in psychology, has led to some pretty fascinating and thought-provoking insights into the way our minds work. And what I wanted to do in my talk is, initially I was just going to tell you about more cool studies and more interesting things that we do. But instead, I wanted to do something different this time and actually really show you how you too can become part of this process, because psychology is a collaborative process. And it was less so in the past and more so in the present and definitely in the future. So I want to show you today how you can become part of this and how you can learn from it and benefit yourselves. So in the past, psychology was such a time-consuming and effortful endeavor that really it could only occur at sort of big, fancy, rich research institutions where essentially rich white college kids would participate in studies. They would go into a lab and engage in some interaction or some task, and they'll fill out these questionnaires. So we would end up with stacks and stacks of questionnaires, and then armies of grad students like myself and undergraduate RAs would have to enter them into a computer. So the whole thing, giant pain, took forever. And unfortunately, when this research finally was published, it would be in subscription-based journals. So unless you are affiliated with a university or some giant library that subscribes to these journals, for example, if you want to read the last article that I published, you have to pay the ridiculous amount of $31. I wouldn't pay $31 to read my own research, and I don't think either, other people should either. But unfortunately, that is the present state. That is, however, going to change, because what comes next is that psychology is going to sort of stop being so shackled to the ivory tower and really start including everyone, including all of you in this room, and what Dougie called the rise of the citizen scientist. And so I'm really excited to tell you more about that. In particular, I will tell you how every one of you in this room can participate in psychology studies, and sort of that's the puzzle of who we are, and help us put it together. You can get to know yourselves better, so there's definitely a lot of it in this, not just for science, but for you as well. You can even make a little bit of money. I will show you how to do that in a non-scammy way. You can get data, and as you know, data is knowledge, and knowledge is power to win arguments. Very important. We all want this particular power. And hopefully have fun in the process. So the problem with participating in psychology research is that, like I said, unless you were a rich white college kid in a fancy institution, you couldn't do it in the past. But then the internet happened, of course, which is the best thing that's happened to us since the invention of love, I think. And what that has made it possible is to collect data for free from everyone in the world who has access to the internet, because we can put our questionnaires online, and then everyone can go and participate in them for free. The problem with that is that if you were to go online and Google psychology survey, you're going to find 5 million hits. You're going to click at one of the first few ones, and 5 pages later, you realize that they want you to buy something. So I wanted to show you some places where you can go and actually really participate in real science. That's done by the pros. One of the oldest web platforms for conducting research online is Project Implicit. This is a website that focuses on studies that study bias, exactly what Tristan talked about. In particular, they were interested in these unconscious implicit biases that we are often not aware of, we cannot really control. And if you go to this website and you sign up and you do some studies, you would see if you have an unconscious implicit preference for young people over old people, for white people over black people, for straight people over gay people, for men in the sciences as opposed to women in the sciences. So it's pretty enlightening and fascinating to go and check it out. This website I'm particularly partial to. That's because I work on it, and of course I think it's the best. In addition to studies about bias and prejudice, Your Morals has studies on everything that you can think of. We have questionnaires about your emotions, your preferences, your moral values, your politics, your experiences, your love life. So I highly recommend it. And yourpersonality.net is a website that focuses particularly on questionnaires and studies that deal with the way you relate to close others, romantic partners, friends, parents, coworkers, and so on. So the thing about psychology studies online is that maybe some of you are thinking, ugh, who wants to fill out a survey? Boring. So I'm going to ask for a little bit of audience participation right now, and I'm going to show you my favorite study that we have currently available on Your Morals to fill out for you. And in this task, you are asked to imagine doing a series of things and you're asked how much money you would have to get paid before you would be willing to do these things. You have no reason to do them other than for the money, and you have to assume that you cannot use the money to make up for what you've done, and the payment is anonymous and secret, and you won't get in trouble. So we're going to go through the room, and I want you to raise your hand when we get to a sum that would satisfy you. So how much money would you have to be paid to step on an anthill and kill thousands and thousands of ants? So raise your hand if you would do that for free. A couple of people would jump on the anthill. What about $1,000? They don't bite you. No, nothing bad would happen to you afterwards. So there are no negative consequences. What about, keep your hands up, what about $10,000? Well, wait, there are more people who, keep your hands up if you had your hand on. Okay, all right. I'm seeing most people have their hands up at $10,000. So we've established our going rate for ant killing is $10,000. Let's do another one. How much money would you have to be paid to be willing to slap your father in the face with his permission as part of a comedy skit, just for fun? Who would do that for free? $1,000? All right, we would rather slap our fathers than kill ants. Oh. Okay, let's do last one. Let's pick a weird one. Get a blood transfusion that is disease-free and compatible with your own blood from a convicted child molester. Who would do that for free? A couple of people? Who would do that for, let's try, $10,000? You don't need the blood transfusion. You're doing it for the money. They'll pay you to do it. Who would do that for $1 million? Still not everyone. Never for any amount of money? Okay. So these are the kinds of questions that you get asked, and you're probably thinking, I'll show you a few more. You can take a look. Kick a dog in the head hard. Let me tell you, nobody wants to do that. Very few people would do that for free. There's a couple of other ones. I'll just give you some time to look at them and ponder, what in the world are we trying to do? So the cool thing about your morals, and this is what the website looks like when you go to it, just to let you know, all of these websites that conduct research ask you to register to the website and fill out a profile. The reason why we do that is not because we're going to scam you. We have much more things that are going to further our careers to do, like publish papers. But we do want your email address, and you do have to create a password. And what that does is that, A, it gives us your demographic information, which we need in order to control in our statistical analysis. We always want to control for your gender, your education, your income, and so on. But it also allows us to save your answers, so that when you come back to the website, you can see, for example, I have taken some of them, and it's going to show me my results from before. And it also shows me what new studies are available to take. And the other cool thing about your morals is that it will show you how your responses compared to the average liberal or conservative visitor to the website, or the average male or female visitor to the website. So you get a lot of feedback, not just about yourself, but about how you compare to others. And in addition, there is text that you won't see on this slide, but we also tell you what is this questionnaire that you just filled out? What's the idea behind it? What's the theory? What's the hypothesis? Oftentimes, we'll tell you that, so you actually get to find out, why are you answering those weird questions? Why are we interested in them, and what might that tell us about the way our minds work? And so you get to learn a lot about psychology as well. If you want to make a little bit of money, you can go to, this is Amazon MTurk subsidiary, I can't say that word, but it's basically crowdsourcing data collection. And what you can do is you can go and put up a survey that you've created, using Google Doodle or something. And you can put it up and say, I want 100 people to fill out this survey, and I'm going to pay them 15 or 30 cents a person. So it's very, very cheap to collect data. You can also be a worker. You can register for free and start taking surveys. They don't pay a lot. An hour-long survey pays about $1 or $2 or something right now. But if you do something that's a little bit more intricate, you start to get paid more. So it's definitely not a living wage. But if you're bored at work and have nothing to do, you might as well, help someone out and, make $3. Why not? What you can also do with the internet and the way we use it now to collect data is that you can actually get the data itself. You get to play psychologist, and then you can play with it. And actually, I swear to God, when I found this picture, it was on a website that was called Survey Analysis in Not Just for Nerds. And I was like, what is wrong with being a nerd? Nothing wrong. So here are two websites that I really like if you want to go and get information about recent polls, for example. So if you're having an argument with your neighbor about something and you're like, I know that the United States population thinks X about this because I saw a poll on CNN a week ago and I don't remember the numbers or I can't really fish it out. So, but what you can do is you can go to Polling Report and they will show you all the recent polls. Or you can go to, this is just, I love this website. The ARDA, even though it says Religion Data Archives, it was originally created to sort of as a repository for a survey research on religion. It now has expanded and now it has basically all the large national and international surveys that are well respected. So all the data from them is put on that website. So I want to show you what Polling Report looks like. Let's say that you were wondering what percentage of the United States population was approving a legalization of marijuana. Just randomly chose an issue. And you go to Polling Report, you search for, there's a search function, you search for marijuana, and it's going to give you a list of survey questions that have been recently asked. I just picked one. This is from a CBS News poll. And the really neat thing about Polling Report is that it knows, it keeps track if that same network conducted the same poll with the same exact wording years ago. So you can see the results here. Do I have a laser on this? Top one? Sorry, I'm really bad with these things. So you can see the results, and you can see how over the years that this question has been asked, the percentage of people who think that marijuana should be legalized has gone up. So great news. The ARDA, like I said, covers a much broader range of topics. So let's say that you're interested in happiness. So you type in happiness in this search function here, and it's going to give you a ginormous list of survey questions that have been asked. And this link, second link here, is going to lead you to the survey itself that contains this item. So you can click on it, and you can find out more about the General Social Survey Study, which is highly respected. It's been going on for 40 years. Every 2 years, they'll collect nationally representative data. But if you click on happy, that's where the really interesting thing happens. That is the name of the variable that contained this question. You can see the data. So you can see that the vast majority of people say that all things considered, they're pretty happy in their lives, which is great news. But then the really cool thing happens if you click on Analyze Results. You get to this page where you can actually generate custom graphs. So let's say that you're interested how the response to the happiness question varies with age. You can choose age, and it's going to give you a table that shows you that the number of people who say they're pretty happy doesn't really go drastically down as you get older. So it's not the case that older people are miserable. So that's great news as well, something to look forward to. So that's how you can actually play with really the highest quality data that we have out there from nationally representative, professionally conducted research. It's really, really great. I encourage you to take advantage of it. And finally, if you just want to be Tristan, so you just want to have a lot of cool information about cool studies that have been done, you're not interested in participating in the process yourselves, although I hope you do, you can go to Science Daily, which is a great website that just has summaries of recent studies that are free for everyone to access. They're usually, I think, pretty well-written summaries, and they're written for a lay audience, so anyone can understand them. Another website that I like that does something similar is Science of Relationships. This summarizes recent findings on everything having to do with attraction, sex, love, and so on. What I like about this website is that it's actually a blog that's the pet project of a bunch of the scientists that are the premier scientists working in this field. So this is just not like the pet project of some blogger. This is actually the researchers that on the side write this blog. So it's very, very, very reputable information. And then I really like this guy's blog. He compiles every day. He has a blog that you can access and just read. And what I like about him is that instead of giving you summaries or some sort of interpretations of the research, he actually compiles the abstracts. So you can see the original source itself. So it's just lists and lists of abstracts, usually centered around a particular topic that he's chosen for that day. So the problem, though, is that let's say you see an abstract that sounds really interesting. You really want to read the whole paper. Unfortunately, chances are that paper is going to be locked away in a subscription-based journal. But one thing that you can do is that you can Google the authors. And a lot of psychologists these days actually have websites, and journals actually, a lot of journals allow us to post PDFs of our own articles on our personal websites. So even though you can access it from the journal, you can access it from there and download it. Also, we're a vain breed, so if you just email us and said, I read about your work somewhere, can you please send me your articles? We will totally respond and do it. We'll send you everything we've published if you ask us to. So we're going to be so excited to share it with someone that is outside of academia that seems to care. And the last thing you can do is you can buy trade books. which this is where it gets tricky because everyone can write a book and call themselves, an expert on blah, blah, blah. So what you want to avoid is books that are written by the likes of Dr. Phil, and you want to actually go towards books that are written by people who look like this. So look for authors that have PhDs in psychology or a related field. Look for people who work in top institutions. It's not a perfect, obviously, heuristic, but there's usually a reason why they're in a good place. And look for books that are praised by other psychologists or other people that are in the relevant field. Chances are that that's going to get you to a book that actually has useful information. So that is sort of the end of my advice. And I really want to emphasize that what I really hope you've taken away from this talk is that what comes next is a more collaborative venture. What comes next is science that is taken out of the ivory tower and is now into the world where anyone can access it and be part of it and take advantage of its findings and what it has to offer. And really sort of work on this together, figuring out how amazingly complex we are and hopefully get much better data for the future. Thank you.